All right, you guys. We are back once again with the old behavior. This is the old Bill, and welcome to the Chill with Bill show. Hey, look, we're gonna do a reaction to Mr. Rich Cooper. I love his content. I ain't never done a reaction to any of his stuff before, but I saw this, and I feel like maybe there were a couple things that were missed uh, in this situation with how it could have been presented. Let me see here. What's going on? Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay. Let's see what we got here.
I guess so, let's start with the single mom and like a single dad
Sure.
perspective and like why that's a different
Okay.
why people should approach that differently in relationships.
Sure. How many kids do you have?
Two.
Okay. And they're in elementary school, or are they high schoolers,
Yep.
or?
Elementary and middle.
Okay. And they came from a marriage, or
Yep.
same father?
Nope.
So two different fathers.
Yep.
Two different marriages?
So I guess the question
red
you're asking
flags,
is, why
automatically.
is that a red flag, if I understood it correctly?
Yeah, why is that a red flag? And then why is it okay for you? Like, I mean, do you look at yourself the same way that you look at it as a single mother if you're a single father?
No. Do you see men and women as the same? Do you see men and women as equal?
In some ways, I mean,
let's start with that. So in what ways do you see men and women as different?
I mean, I think that they should bring the same things to the table. You know, I want somebody who is
No, you don't.
confident, successful, great at communicating. Like everything should be reciprocated in a relationship when it comes to your emotional
No, I guess
capacity.
the question is do you see differences between men and women? Because I mean, you're kind of
Yes,
describing
like,
the kind of guy that you want to date.
yeah, but I mean, biologically, yes.
Okay. So biologically, I guess we can start with that, because you know that women birth the children, which men don't do. So that does a number on a person's body, doesn't it?
Sure.
So there's one difference between men and women. So to kind of dive down the rabbit hole of like the single mom, we'll get into friendships with friends and men and female friends and the tattoos a little bit as well too. But there are differences between men and women. And when it's convenient, what I'll often hear is, well, if you say that men should probably stay away from single moms, but you're a single dad with a kid, how is that any different? Right? Like, why do you get a pass on that? And the truth of the matter is that I don't think guys really do get a pass on that. I think guys get criticized. Oh, dogs found something interesting outside. A squirrel, maybe. So guys don't necessarily get a pass, you know, in that regard, because women tend to disqualify men pretty rapidly.
Sure.
For a number of reasons, and one of them, you know, can be that they've already got a child. But I guess the easiest way for me to enlighten the ladies that are watching and the ones on the panel also is that when a woman's got kids in tow from a prior relationship, and in your case, you've got two different kids from two different fathers, that brings extra levels of complexity into a man's life that he wouldn't necessarily deal with if she didn't have kids. For example, you've got two baby daddies. You're going to have two baby daddy drama. You're going to be dealing with that, and I'm going to have to hear about that. I'm also going to put myself in a position where I essentially cuckold myself, where I am now in a place where I have responsibility to a child that isn't mine, doesn't have my last name, doesn't have my DNA. There's no benefit to me, but I don't have, generally speaking, any authority over that child. And what men typically find, which is a different experience that women don't usually understand until they're a sister to a guy that's dating a single mom, or a mother to a son that's dating a single mom, but they don't usually see this. But the difference is that women want the authority off over your kid, but they don't want the responsibility to it. Whereas the other way around, guys tend to find themselves in a position where they have the responsibility. They're paying for meals. We got to go to Chuck E. Cheese. Rich is paying the bill. We're going to go skiing. Rich, you know, cuts the check. All this sort of stuff is coming off my end, but I don't have any authority over those kids, because when they'll go and not feel good about something, they might throw a little hissy fit. Something doesn't go their way. Mom will swoop in, you know, mama bear comes in, protects the children. I'm not saying that these women don't deserve love. They don't deserve a relationship. I'm just telling guys that are following my content that are out there putting a dent in the universe, doing something, chasing excellence. It's far better for them to entertain women without children than it is to entertain women with children. Does that make sense?
Wouldn't that be exactly the same,
Nope.
the opposite way though, too?
No.
Why?
Because I didn't push a football through my body. I'm loaded. I'm in great shape. Men's value goes up typically as they get older.
But regardless,
Well, I think, and he may touch on this. I don't know, but I think he missed the mark on that a little bit. Men and women don't play the same role when it comes to taking care of kids. Like this woman down here, this one, any dude who ends up, so she's got two kids with two different dads, right? And so any dude that she ends up with, she's not going 50-50 with this guy. Let's just be clear. That's not how most relationships are. Not 50-50. They don't work like that, right? She's going to want him to come in and take care of her to some extent. And if he wants to marry her, if they're going to progress anywhere, she's definitely going to want him to take care of her, right? So he's paying for rent, which now in her case, he's paying for, rent her a house to provide a roof over the head of not just her, but then two kids too. Do they get their own rooms? That's more square footage, right? Every meal, these kids are included, whether it be going out or even, just providing food at home. When it comes to activities, wherever they're going, whatever it is that they're doing, he's not just paying for, because, a lot of people, we worry about the money. It's not just the financial investment, right? But it's the time, the energy, the emotions, all that stuff. Guys play a very large role when they're in the household with children, period, right? And women, unfortunately, most of y'all don't reciprocate that same kind of energy when it comes to his kids. Most men won't ask you to do that because they already got a mama, right? And you're not in the provider role, right? You're not paying the rent, you're not providing the roof, you're not providing the electric, you're not doing all those things for your man and his kids, right? He's doing that for you and your kids, more than likely, right? In most relationships. And so the same amount of energy, emotions, time, all these things it's not reciprocated when it comes to a woman and her investment into the man's child if he comes with a kid. Most men are taking care of all the responsibility portion of their kid and then some, right? Whether it be because, the time that he has his kids or also the time when they're away. He's putting in these things, right? You're not going to be required to put those in. But on the opposite end, even if they have great fathers who are putting in all this time and energy, whatever's possible, money, this and that, he's still paying for the house. He's still paying for the extracurricular, all the lifestyle that you have that this woman and whoever she ends up getting with, from dating all the way till marriage, because once it's marriage, it's serious, right? Like the investment that he's making into you and your children is not the same investment that you would be making into him and his children if that's the way that if it were the other way around, right? So it's an L, because if you get emotional or whatever, you can just be like, cut the kids out of your life. And he has no legal recourse to them at all. He can't go to court, can't fight for time. He invested money, energy, time, emotions. He might be super close with the kids now, whatever it may be. And, because you chose to whatever, like there's nothing he can do about it at that point, right? And we all know that women are more likely to do that than men. Most men aren't going to do that, right? That's just not how that works. And again, the investment that you made, even if he were to do that, is significantly less than what it would be on the man's part.
Of that,
if you take away your success, you're still a single father.
Whether that's a factor, of course. However, you're still talking about a baby mama that I'm signing up to deal with for the rest of my life. My life is going to have to revolve around that in some capacity, and I don't have kids.
I agree with that part. A woman's going to have to deal with a baby mama as much as a man's going to have to deal with a baby daddy. And I would argue that the more often than not, the woman and what she has to deal with from a baby's mama is going to be more involved and what's the word I'm looking for? It's going to affect her more than the amount that the guy would have to deal. The guy, as far as what he's going to have to deal with when it comes to the baby daddy, very often than not, is probably minimal. It's some interaction, and then it's all the investment that he has to make, right? A woman dealing with a baby mama, she might have to deal with attitude and petty bullshit. You know what I mean? Depending on what's going on with the baby mama, right? So I do agree with her, in that part being equal, or even more, on the side of the woman, right?
Got it. So, Jordan, the custody arrangement you have with the kids, how does that work out? Do you have them every other week? Is it?
Yep, every other week. Yep.
Okay. So it's the same with both fathers?
Yep.
So you've got a week on with both the kids and then a week off with both the kids. And then they go to the respective fathers and they come back to you.
Yep. Sorry.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. So that's
There's a
not
dog.
normal, right? Like women
There's
get
the
about
dog.
80% of the custody orders, which means that they're with the kids most of the time. Like the average deal that guys get in most scenarios is they'll see their kids every other weekend and like a Wednesday night for dinner. And then
Yeah.
the moms have the kids most of the time. So in Jordan's case, she's got them 50-50, right? Which is a little bit different. So in most guys' scenarios, like as soon as they're dealing with a single mom, the vast majority of the time, they've got the kids most of the time. Now, if I'm a father and I've got kids, chances are on a balance of probabilities that I'm going to spend more time raising your kids than I am going to be around my kids. So that's another.
Probably true. And in her case, the dude who's coming in and paying, and doing all these things, right, providing a lifestyle, he's now paying for 2 bedrooms that aren't used for half the year, right? Don't forget that. If the kids are going with their dad for, 50% of the month, right, for half of the year, then the rooms, the beds, the closets, the storage space, all this stuff, right, that they require, depending on how old they are, I don't know. He's paying to provide that, even though it's not being used for half the year, right? So it's just sitting there, right?
Their detriment as well too. That's a benefit that women experience when they're with fathers that have children. I'm not saying that you have to choose a father with children. You can also make a decision not to deal with a guy that's got kids. That's entirely plausible, right?
I think what doesn't make sense to me is you're not understanding that it's a big thing for either a man or a woman to take that on.
No,
I don't understand.
He's not saying it's not a big thing. What he's saying is that for a man to take on a woman with extra kids is a huge deal. He's making substantially more of an investment. This woman right here, she can talk about it all she wants, but she's never been a man taking care of a single mother and her kids, right? Like she's only been a woman maybe in that situation. And again, most women are not that. They're not going 50-50. It's not, nothing is 50-50. There's no relationships that are 50-50. The man is going to usually going to be putting in a certain amount, right? When it comes to dollars and time and energy and all these things, right? And she's going to be putting in other things, right? Like we play different parts, right? Especially if you're in a relationship with standard gender roles, right? Like if it's traditional, then he's paying for everything. You know what I mean? And maybe you're making extra meals, when you cook, right? And folding extra clothes when you wash. If there's standard gender roles, I'm not trying to be sexist, but tradition is sexist, right? In those situations, you might be doing extra stuff. But when we're talking about the role the man plays, that's huge. There's a huge difference there.
It's different because women don't take responsibility of a man's kids.
Exactly.
Right?
How?
They just don't.
How can you say that?
Well, we can use nursery rhymes would be a great example. There's stories like Cinderella, for example, where there's always the evil stepmom. There's no nursery rhyme. There's no story. There's no elementary story in Disney where there's the evil stepfather. It's always the evil stepmom because it's
kind of a weird way for him to make his point. I would say that traditionally, again, men take on a provider role, right? Where women take on a more submissive role. And so unless the situation is somehow reversed and you are the provider, this woman right here, meaning you're the one who's making all the bread, bringing in the dollars, this, that, and the other, right? Like the role you play, they're going to be different. And when we're talking about the amount of investment that has to be made, it's going to be different. Most women, there are some out there that'll like They'll treat other women's kids, like their own. There are some women out there that do that, but most women don't behave that way. And I'll say a lot of men. I mean, there's a lot of simpy dudes out there. I mean, including myself at one point. You know what I mean? We're down to, hey, all kids eat. Like it's just it's what it is, and that is everywhere.
It's based on reality. Women don't typically have much interest in a man's child. They just don't. Whereas men are more than willing to swoop in and raise another man's child.
I believe that.
I'm just saying, I know about Cinderella. I know about a lot of fairy tales.
Is there one fairy tale, one Disney story where there's the evil stepfather?
It's not a fairy tale, it's real life.
I'm talking about reality of 2023.
I know, but these are all based on real life.
But
I'm talking about reality in 2023. I hate it when women say that. Reality in 2023, right? It's no different than reality 100 years ago, okay? Y'all still ain't doing it. Y'all still ain't the ones doing the work, paying all the bills, right? You're not. There are some cases where the woman is the breadwinner, and every relationship that I've seen, like, usually the woman can be the breadwinner when she's older. Once she gets older and all her options are diminished, then she's cool with having a guy that she makes more than he does, and he's good to be around. And she loves her man because he provides this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. When she was 25, she wasn't checking for that dude. Like, not even a little bit, especially if she was a boss B, you know what I mean? Like, so the women in these provider roles, you know what I mean? It's just not something that you see often. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It does happen, and some people can find happiness in that, but most of the time, we know that shit doesn't work, right?
That's why they
what
tell
I'm
these
talking
stories.
about is real life too. And so, like, for example, I have this like longtime childhood friend, and I actually have had multiple friends in this position where they actually have very successful careers. They're doing really well. They're single. They start dating a guy with 3 kids.
Mm-hmm.
They move in with these guys. They take on the responsibility of basically being a stepmom. They're taking these kids to practices. They're going to conferences.
First of all, how old is this girl? how old are these girls that she be talking about, right? Are they older? Are they, 28, 29, 30, 35, 36, 37? Is that what we're talking about right there? Because you've got 3 kids. A guy with 3 kids, she's probably older. Okay, first of all, what's wrong with them? Right? How'd they get to be into their 30s without having kids in their own family, right? First of all, okay. And then now we know that if they're that age, I don't know, she didn't say, but if they're that age, you know what I mean? We know what they did for the first, from 20 to 35, right? Like, they weren't checking for that dude, right?
I mean, they're doing all of the things. And from what I can see, I mean, in a lot of these cases, and I do fault the women too, because I feel like they're not holding these guys to the right standards. However, like, they don't have a ring on their finger. No.
Yeah, there's a reason for that.
No. So I feel like
they
I'm
have
just
a choice
saying,
not to deal with a guy with kids, though. Why are they choosing to deal with a guy with kids?
Yeah, and men have the choice to deal with a single mom or not. But what you're saying is it's different for men to take that on than it is for women. And what I'm saying is, I mean, it might be different, but it's still drama that you're.
She hasn't made not one single point. She's just like, as Circle would say, she's looping, bro. She's looping. She's going
it's
circles.
Still drama on either side.
Okay, so let's use my story versus Jordan's story. She's got 2 kids from 2 different fathers. I have 1 kid from 1. I was married to her. That's it. And there's no drama. She's potentially going to invite more drama into a man's life by getting involved with her because she's got a couple of kids from a couple of different guys. She's also got 2 kids instead of 1 kid. You see what I'm saying here?
I feel like we're comparing.
I see, Rich. Normally you do a really good job with this, and this is why I'm like, I was kind of confused. That explanation right there, it doesn't really hit home. Right, she's got 2 kids. She's got 1 kid. Yeah. So it's kind of like apples and oranges, right? Let's just say you had 2 kids from 2 different baby mama, and she got 2 kids from 2 different baby daddies. Okay, a guy that comes into her life, and if you guys are arguing about a single person with no kids coming into these lives, it's even worse, right? But so let's do it like that. Okay, so a man that comes into her life, she's got her kids every other week. He is more, she's going to want him to make a certain amount of money, probably at least what she makes or more, right? He's going to have to make at least what she makes or more because it's about to get expensive real quick, right? His life is about to change drastically. He's taking on three people. 50% of his life, three people he's taken on, right? Like that into his situation. Okay. So assuming she's relatively traditional, right? Or wants traditional shit because most women want to be modern while getting traditional outcomes, right? So let's assume she wants him to pay the bills, at least 80% of them. Okay. Let's just come on. There's no way she's won't go like, yeah, I'll pay 50% of everything. Like this is not a relationship that's going to work. She wants him to pay at least 80%, if not more. Maybe she pays her cell phone bill. I don't know. Right. So he's going to have to come if they start dating, right? Maybe for a little bit, he gets away with taking her out only on the weekends when she doesn't have the kids. Okay. The weekends when she doesn't have or the weeks when she doesn't have the kid, maybe he takes her out then so he can get away with just a 2-and-2 situation. Right. And then also, let's assume that there is nothing that happens on the weekends when she's not supposed to have the kids, right? Like she's got to pick one up, or there's a kid's event, a birthday party, or blah, 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 blah. Right. Let's assume nothing happens. So that may last for a little bit of time, but then at some point he's going to be taking her out when she has the kids. Okay, so now there's 2 extra mouths to feed, right? They're limited to where they can go. They're limited in the time that they have to be able to do so because both of these kids probably have activities or different things that they have to do, right? On top of bedtimes and dinner times. And, so there's a structure that has to be conformed to at that point, right? And he's assuming paying for all of this, right? At least 80%, right? I mean, like, again, I don't see why it wouldn't be most of it, but let's just say, it's 80%. So he's paying for all of that, right? Then they start getting a little serious. Okay. Well, maybe they're taking vacations together, right? So again, he might be able to get away with one where it's just the 2 of them, but at some point it's going to be the 4 of them, right? So he's got to pay for that. He's got to plan that. That becomes harder and just more right off the bat. It's going from just a regular single dude providing and doing this thing for him and one chick to doing it for 4 people. It's a whole nother kind of situation, right? It's very, very much different at that point. And he has to plan for all that. Okay. So then they move in together potentially, right? So instead of getting an apartment or a 1 or 2 bedroom, you know what I mean, that they could do, they need 3 bedrooms, you know what I'm saying? A bare minimum 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, right? So rent or the price of the house that he has to buy, whatever is substantially more, right? Okay. And so then if he's lucky, and I don't mean to say this like, I'm just saying from a financial standpoint, if he's lucky and the fathers aren't deadbeats, then he doesn't have to pay for extracurriculars. He doesn't have to pay for, like sports, clothing, like all these things that come along that kids require, right? However, birthdays and Christmases and all these things, you're not going to not get the kids stuff. Like you're not going to not get them shit. You're going to invest into them, right? You're going to buy them presents. You're going to take them places. You're going to do, because you're not going to have a separate life somehow where it's you and the woman and not the kids, right? You're going to do all these things. Okay. So I can keep going, but that's just a huge amount, right? Like not just financially, but time and energy and all the things that go into doing all that stuff, planning for all that stuff and executing all that stuff, right? Never mind just being a cool person and wanting to participate in the lives of the kids that you're living with, right? Because that takes time, energy, and whatever too. So let's run that back. And it's the woman who's single and the man who's got 2 kids, right? Well, again, why would they not be stepping into traditional roles, right? It's not going to be 50-50. Maybe she's cool with it for a little bit, but at some point he's paying for everything or paying for 80% of the stuff. There's not going to be a situation where she's paying for the stuff, right? Not a situation that has longevity and that's normal and that's on, works out, right? So she comes in, she's single, he's got 2 kids, he's paying bare minimum 80%, but probably everything, right? Well, he's already got to get a place that has multiple rooms. Okay? She's going to be moving into his place, or they're going to be getting a place that has to be that size regardless, because he's got these kids, right? He's going to be already paying for it. It's not going to change her financial situation at all. Yes, Christmas comes, she's going to buy the kids presents, eventually, right? All these things. No vacations is she paying for. She's not taking them, you know what I mean? Like, he's not taking him and his kids to a lot of places. Maybe if she's well off, she's making a bunch of bread, maybe she'll offer, you know what I mean? But on average, that's not what's happening, right? And then again, as they get further and further down the line, as he's building family with her, unless they have more kids together, right? For the most part, it's his kids and him and then her, right? Even though they're living together or doing whatever, like, he's taking care of this and her. She's part of it, right? So maybe she'll buy some Christmas presents. Maybe she'll buy some birthday presents, of course, Obviously, she'll spend some time. Maybe she'll pick a kid up from, soccer practice or this, that, and the other, and maybe she'll invest into it by she might be cooking for them as well, you know what I mean? Maybe she buys some food on occasion as well, right? But the investment is significantly less, right? It's less. So apples and oranges, you can't really, the two things don't go together like the same, because the investment's not the same. And what I've never heard of them, a situation like that where the guy and the girl split, and then the guy kept the kids from being able to see her ever again. I've never heard that, right? Like, usually if they develop a relationship, it's the woman gets to continue to see the kids as much as she wants. Does it happen often that she sees them often? No, I mean, maybe they have a good relationship and it lasts for a certain amount of time, but it seems that whenever the roles are reversed and the woman has the kids and the woman and the man split up, she will inevitably take those kids and she'll make it so he doesn't get to see them ever again. Like, she fundamentally changes the relationship for the worse, right? Because she brought this dude into her life, had him do all this stuff for her kids, and then separated them because they just happened to not work out or whatever, right? That kind of thing happens all the time. All the time. So in the end, the way those relationships change, like, they don't change the same. The woman doesn't lose as much as the man loses when if these relationships end, which most of them usually do, right? So anyways, you can keep going with the clip at Rich Cooper clips, his clips channel has this one, and then you can see the full thing if you want. Like, if you agree with her, cool. If you agree with him, I just thought the way that he explained it, he was kind of missing some things, some like serious fundamentals, like the cost, not just financially, but emotionally, time-wise, all these things. The investment that the man tends to make into these relationships versus the investment the woman has to make, they're lopsided. They're substantially lopsided, so it's not the same. Anyways, Bill, I'm out this joint. Peace, y'all.